Okay, welcome back to the Giro 3 YouTube channel. Today we're having a look at a Emotator 1105, which is to be used with the Elevation rotator I finished just recently in videotape, which is a 700, the EV-700. So I just thought I'd have a quick run through of this. I've been doing a few things with it and getting it all up to the point that I can start videotaping everything. So I'm just doing a bit of a dry run through and a dry assembly to show you what's been going on with this one, and we'll go from there. So first off, I might as well show you the actual motor. The motor is the 24 volt version. They used to run a 100 volt version in these. I've glued the spacers on here. I had to make these spacers up to set. I wanted to reset the whole thing to the right height, so I had to make new spacers up. The motor start capacitor is sitting here on a brand new bracket. So I've already done the BK brake and everything, assembly, which is all in here. So there's the brake assembly in here. That's already been refurbished and done. One day I might get around to physically showing that how it all goes. So we'll just sit in the back over there. We might look at the casings. The casings have been glass bead blasted and painted with edge primer, and then I think what company it was, gunmetal, I think it was, what they call hammertone. That's, I'll get it right in a minute. So this one's in pretty good condition, and it's all, I've already polished up the insides here where a bit of overspray was. So we'll go and look at the bearing rim, which has done the same thing, glass bead blast as well. I did have done all both sides because it was a bit messy, this one, so I've just finished shining up all the sort of flaring it out would be a good idea. So that's the bearing ring. Like that. The bottom casing was in good condition, so again, this was totally glass bead blasted, and I've etch primed the outside and painted again hammertone again. The inside was glass bead blasted as well, and I've actually physically put a clear coat on the inside to reseal it. So you also might notice down in here I have 3 grub screws facing through to the outside. They don't come all the way through, they go flash. That is for flush, not flash, flush. I'll get it right in a minute, flush. That is for I'm replacing the actual socket and plug arrangement with this rotator with a one that's easily readily available. So this is an Amphenol LTW clamp, socket I should say, and it works from the inside out. So you push it in and you put a lock nut on the outside. So I'll get this not crossed. So what I've done is I've put in 2 notches just there and there, just marked it and filed it in, and then what that does is it lines up and stops this from, so when you go down through there, it lines it up and holds those pins, actually hold the socket in place so it doesn't turn, and then you can put your lock nut on. I'll get it straight, of course. And then it doesn't, it won't move anywhere. So that this plug will remain wired up to the actual physical rotator and controller unit on the inside. So when you service, you just undo the nut, pull it out and service it. You can test it on the bench, and then you can reassemble it without having to resolder the wires. Nothing worse than resoldering bloody wires all the time and then trying to remember what the colours were. So yeah, so there you can see it's smack bang in the middle. It has a gland here, like a sealing washer. So yeah, it's in a pretty good unit, that. So it's all plastic, and yeah, I haven't got the plug here at the present moment. So there we go. That's that. The actual top chassis, top gear chassis or top chassis. We have the limit swing bar here. It's a solid bit of thick metal, as you can see. These are the little tines for the limit switches. The actual top gearbox mount or sub chassis is, you can probably see through here, it's a solid piece of steel. I've had that, you can see it flaring, I've had that re-zinc plated. I've actually re-bolted it in here ready to go, so yeah, I'll get back to that a bit later on. So that's had that done. The actual limit switches are all brand new screws, and the actual had the actual plate here re-zinc plated, you might notice that I have these little dimples here. That is actually to hold these shafts in here to stop them from floating up and down. So if I put this into position, I'll get around the right way. I'm back to front here at the present moment, so I'll just slide them that way. So basically, there's a little bit of a gap there, but not much, and it just stops all the end float on these things, because there's not a lot of room. You flip it over, there's not a lot. If I push it down now, there's only like about 2 mil. So just means it stops that end float, because it would move at least more than that distance. So I've done that. Just little things that I do with these, with the Emotator rotator, especially this version, the 1105, the 1200 and the 1300. They're all run the same sub chassis. So we'll have a look at the, this is the limit switch assembly. This one is the 3 gear version. So we have a gear on the pot, we have another divider gear back to back, and then we have the gear that meshes with the final drive gear, this one here. That meshes in here. So, and that's that one there. So that's all been refurbished and ready to go, all been rewired. So that's all ready to be reassembled. Okay, we'll move on to the lower gear box mount. Now normally the shafts are not fixed into these, they sit around and float, and they wear this bottom plate out because they spin, and they wear the shafts out, wear the actual mounting point. So what I've done is I have, and these are new shafts too, these shafts are brand new, has my grooves in it for the circlips. And these circlips, or circlips, they actually hold this gear and this gear off these faster moving 3 gears down here, so there's no weight on them. So I'll explain more of that later on. So basically what I've done is I have got the original base section. These ones had a longer throw on the bottom, so I've actually been able to put like knolling on the bottom, and then I've pressed them in and glued them at the same time, and then, as you can probably see without flaring it, I've actually pinged it, I should say, with a punch and flared it out, so it's no chance of it actually moving. So it's all centered and everything and ready to go. I then did all my checked all my spacing I needed, and then I put the actual glued these physical spacers into place, so they can't move and they're fixed in position. But if you look really, probably can't really see, if you look really closely, these have a countersink in there, so a little bit of grease will sit within the groove. And that's the next thing that I'll show you too as well. All the gears that I do on these, I actually countersink the actual, when you look at the angle, I countersink all the gears. So all the gears, instead of being totally flat, I countersink them so there's a little bit of grease sitting in this groove to keep grease onto the shaft and everywhere. Normally when it's flat, you're totally flat, you expel a lot of the grease. So basically, yeah, it's just a way, and I've even done the bigger gear as well. So just a slight countersinking, from flaring out, top and bottom, just a little, just to retain a little bit of grease in there and keep things lubricated, I suppose. So what we're going to do, a dry run through. So the motor has to be put on after the fact because of the lip on the actually retaining little push nuts. They actually overhang, we can't see it, they overhang the edge of the gears, so I've actually got to put the motor in after the fact. So, which means, and one nut is going to be underneath the motor, underneath this gear once it goes in. So a bit of playing around. So basically this is our first drive gear, and it'll just drop on, and so it spins free. We then do the next gear, which should have been that one. And as you see, I've already done the spacings to get this exactly the right position where I need to be, and you can see the groove, when I get the angle right, groove is right there, which I'm putting the clip in after I put the next gear in place. So there we go, there's that next gear in place, and you can see the grooves are there. So what we'll do We shall grab our circlip pliers. We shall load the circlips up and we'll slide them into place. Put the other one on. These are just little mods and upgrades I do to these, just to make life easier and make them last longer, I suppose. Rightio, so now we have that, and as you can see, a little bit of end float, a little bit of end float, not a lot, and the gears spin free. So basically now with that in place, we can now put the heavier gears in place, and this is a solid gear, which Emotator, these are a manufactured gear I should say, where a lot of these ones here are all stamped out gears, and then they've been pressed, the centres have been pressed in on. Well, this is actually a manufactured gear, you can see how thick it is, and basically it is then pushed in and then it's actually welded in place. So that's the next gear in place, so that's a big thick gear. Got to line it up would be a good idea. So there we go. And now these gears will still be moving around freely. There's no weight on that gear there. And then of course this is another gear, the next gear in line, which is another manufactured gear. You can see by my fingers how thick that gear is, and again it's welded as well, so it's flaring out. So it's made in two pieces. This collar section here fits into this section here, and it's actually sort of like a bush and keeps that central. So there we go, so that's the next gear to go in line, so we'll sit that into there. So now when you normally assemble these heavy gears would push down these gears and make this very hard to turn. You know, these gears are still, you know, I could not definitely do that, running the second gear down, and even so I can still turn this here, where normally you couldn't do that because the weight of those gears holding down on it. So that's that part in line. So what I'm going to do, just as a temporary, we'll drop him into here, so you can sew it all going together. He goes into there like that. I'd normally put screws in and the motor would go on, and of course then these are again a manufactured gear, not like some other rotators which are a stamped out gear and have 3 or 4 stamped out gears. These are actually a solid gear, rock solid as, so it's one piece gear. So then again that drops into there, snaps into that. I'm going to keep holding the bottom, I was going to lose that. We'll put this one in there, here's a little doodad, slide him into there as well, and then of course then what goes in place when I get the thing in the right place. So we'll slide him over there like that, and then you'll see with that sitting in place, we'll put screws in it. They are the little pinned out section or pinged out sections to hold the these shafts. And you can actually see now how much room. There's at least 3 mil there that shaft can lift up and down. And basically then the potentiometer will go into here and screw off the 2 screws there, and that meshes with that center gear. And so that's the reduction gearing section. And of course then it's all wired up, and basically the plug is terminated onto it, or I should say the socket's terminated on it, and then I can physically go ahead from there. So this is just a dry run through at the present moment. Everything went together really well. So basically I'll pull it all back apart again, and we shall move forward. I'll get it all greased up, and then I'll get it all assembled, get it wired, and then I'll probably do a small video of it, reassembling it into the actual housings themselves. So right, just drop that over there before it all falls out. So just set that there, move those to there, they can sit there like that. I might take a photo of that and use it as a thumbnail possibly. Not a problem. Okay, we shall see you next video. Catch up. Bye.